Peter Thomas Fornital back with you on Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge Diaries. We're going to break format a little bit this week. We've got one guest. We'll get to him in a minute. Very excited by today's show. Chance to go a little bit deeper in conversation with today's guest. We're going to do the reverse of what we usually do at the beginning. Usually I tell you about last weekend's winners, and then I tell you about upcoming qualifying tournaments. But let's start with the upcoming qualifying tournaments. You'll see them there on your screen. We've got back-to-back action at Keeneland, the October 11th Friday contest. You've got to be at Keeneland to play, Keeneland.com, or reach out to Jim Goodman for more details on that one. And then it's the Keeneland Fall Challenge, one of the biggest qualifying events of the year, happening on Saturday, October 12th. You can play that one both at Keeneland and also online. There are online partners for this year's Keeneland event. Check your local ADW to see if you're involved. I do know that twinspires.com is going to be offering participation into that one. I know there's some other opportunities to play online as well. Always the most fun, though, if you can get down there to Keeneland to play in person. Then over the course of the next several weeks, the 19th and then the 26th and 27th, specifically, Santa Anita and ExpressBet are going to take center stage. Go to expressbet.com/tournaments to get all the details about upcoming qualifying opportunities there to win your Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge seat. And, of course, horseplayers.com has got you covered. Both ExpressBet and horseplayers.com also have ways you can feed into these qualifiers for short money. So make sure you check out those schedules, horseplayers.com, expressbet.com/tournament, and try to win your way into these qualifiers and then hopefully punch your ticket to the BCBC $10,000 live bankroll handicapping contest, the major as far as many are concerned in the handicapping contest world. Speaking of winning your way in, you'll see some names on screen that did just that last week. We'll start by giving props to Tim Yoler, who finished atop the standings on Thursday's $179 qualifier over at horseplayers.com. That was also part of our Horse Player Happy Hour series, where we've got another tournament running in terms of our Horse Player Happy Hour playoffs. But on the next few Thursdays, we do have these direct qualifiers with a twist. What's the twist? Well, the twist is that the house cut goes to Thoroughbred Aftercare, the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance, and Therapeutic Horses of Saratoga. So these are the best online qualifying opportunities on horseplayers.com of the year, because not only do you have a chance to win a fabulous prize, you're also supporting a great cause. In the more common, straightforward qualifiers at Horse Players, a bunch of people won full tickets. Adam Sadler, Joseph Perella, David Browning, a former Horse Player Happy Hour Tour champion, Patrick McGoey, a two-time BCBC winner, Joe Kramer, and Paul Winandi all won seats. Over on ExpressBet, we had three players qualify. They were James Henry, Eugene Cahalan, and also another former BCBC champion in Nissan Gabay. And then, this is what they call a segue in the biz, folks. On twinspires.com last week, one of our BCBC Diaries regulars punched his ticket. That's Justin Mustari. Let's bring Justin in right now. Next up, we bring in a guest who's both one of our regular players and one of last weekend's qualifiers. He did that by punching his ticket over at twinspires.com. Justin Mustari, congrats on the big win, buddy. Tell us how it all went down.
Yeah, got a great weekend. We started this. The goal was to win a BCBC bid. So here we are. This is the show we were waiting for, and I did it this weekend. So yeah, I played in the TwinSpires $1,000 contest. You bet with 600 of the 1,000, 400 goes into the prize pool. And like I've been saying on the show previously, I have strong opinions early, and I decide to go all in and try to make scores that put me to the top or within the top couple. So I went all in. I played $300 exacta box, two horses. That exacta hit got back like 3,500-ish, was in the lead for 70-80% of the day. Kind of chipped away at my minimums, $60 to win. Didn't hit anything about two or three of those races. And then saw some people creeping up about, 7th, 8th race-ish. Some guys were getting closer. So I played about $250 win bet on a horse. I think he was around 4-1 that I liked. That horse ends up winning. So I kind of opened up that gap a little bit more. And then with 2 races left, someone passed me by $130, let's say, somewhere around there. So I knew in the last race I had to bet and played, I think, around $400 in exactas. That's kind of what showed based on where the leader or the guy in second was, third, fourth, all that, where, hey, I can bet a couple $100 here and not really hurt my chances to hopefully stay in top three. But Canterbury contest, I didn't give myself a chance to win it and win a BCBC. So this was the one that I made sure if I hit the last race, I was going to win. And I hit the exacta 12-1, ran second and cashed for another 2,800. And I think ended with 6,500 or so in the contest and won a BCBC bid.
It's interesting. It does feel to me like you were reacting as the tournament went along, as opposed to just having the target score and shooting for that. When do you do each of those things in a tournament? What determines whether you're scoreboard watching or just saying, hey, I need to get to X?
Yeah, so I've played in the Twin Spires contest previously, and it's been Churchill, it's been some other tracks, and you get more opportunities at Keeneland. Keeneland usually has bigger fields. There's potentially longer prices that win. There's more opportunities to make scores. So I had a feeling that in the 3,000s was not going to do it for me. That is what has done it on previous Twin Spires contests around that ballpark. So I knew that once I cashed for around there, I was going to have to make another play at some point, and did like the last race. So it happened that was the one that I made sure I won the contest. But Keeneland has some opportunities to make some scores. So it was not, I didn't feel too comfortable in the 3,000 range that I had a chance to win. So it all depends on what type of track and what type of outcomes could potentially happen based on your handicapping opinions.
I think that's a great point, thinking about what track you're playing, what day it is, how open the races are. I could remember being surprised playing in one of the NYRA contests, but it was one of the NYRA contests on Jim Dandy Day. I think it was Jim Dandy Day, and being surprised at how much higher the scores were. But I think it's because there were not only maybe some more open races, but also just that many more people playing too. Is that something you look at when you're trying to figure out where the final score is going to get to, how many entries there are in the contest?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think there's a ton of players in the Twin Spire contest. I want to say this week there was in maybe 40s or 50s. So they only gave away one BCBC because of that. But yeah, I mean, you kind of look at the leaderboard and say, hey, who are the guys that still have money left? And we all know that there's certain players that you watch out for sure. And you know that they're not afraid to go all in and blow $2,000 towards the end of the race to have an opportunity to win. So you're definitely looking at that leaderboard, finding the guys that you are potentially scared of, let's say, and make sure that those guys are not live. And that also changes the final outcome.
Right. It's a little bit like poker. You can play the other player's hand a bit, I think, trying to think, well, what would I do if I were in this player spot? Or knowing certain players who have an aggressive streak, having a sense, well, this person's going to probably go all in. If they hit, I need to have at least X. Is that a fair analogy, that there's a little bit of almost poker strategy that can come into play at the ends of these contests?
Yeah, definitely. I think depending on the type of contest, we all know that there are some players who will make some crazy bets, and it sometimes mathematically doesn't seem to make sense to the rest of the world. But when there's all this added money, it's bets that we feel that we're forced to make those big scores. So yeah, it definitely depends on who's in the contest and what they're giving away.
So we've talked about your approach to tournaments throughout the season here on Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge Diaries. How did it develop? When did you first remind us? We've talked about this a little, but when you first started playing in live bankroll strategies, and what's some of the lessons you learned along the way? Basically, I want you to be able to maybe give some advice to people looking to get more serious about live bankroll formats and how they can develop a strategy by looking at your own progression.
Yeah, I would say kind of coming up with an idea of what your goal is in a day. What type of player are you? Everyone plays different. Everyone makes different types of bets in a day. There's a lot of win bettors. There's a lot of double bettors. But what is the type of strategy that you have that potentially benefits you? So if you're going to play exactas or win bets, just understand that, hey, the contest calls for potentially a bankroll of $4,000 to $6,000. What's going to give you your best opportunity to get to that goal? Or maybe the goal is one bet and you can get there. And that's kind of the strategy that I've played leading up to this. Was I'd rather just bet a lot on my strong opinions. If I have one or two strong opinions on a day and both of those win, I'm going to win or get in the top five and win a seat or whatever the prizes are. Um, but just putting yourself in a situation that you're comfortable with. There's a lot of people who get in these contests and they start feeling pressure or what should I do or shouldn't I do? So just come up with a plan before you enter these contests and just say, hey, I'm comfortable with making these type of bets, and this is the best strategy for me to get myself in the position I want at the end of the day.
It's a great answer and gives me a few different directions to go because you remind me of a few contest truisms I've heard from players over the years. One thing is Paul Sherman, in a book I wrote called The Winning Contest Player many moons ago, mentioned that idea of being able to prepare your way into a good mental state, to get away from any of those jitters. And part of that is handicapping and knowing, what you think of the different races. But another part of it, I think, is exactly what you said about if you have that plan going in, then there's really nothing to second guess. You don't have the question of, am I going to make this bet? You already decided you were going to make this bet. Another thing I thought was very interesting, part and parcel of the strategy as you describe it, is you're not afraid to flame out early if one of those opinions is early. And Matt Miller, another book I had the pleasure of working on, A Better Way of Thinking, talks about how great it is when you can hit something early, because then instead of the minimums chipping away at you and potentially, getting minimummed out of a contest even, the minimums don't matter if you have that early score. Then you can really just focus on getting them out of the way. It doesn't affect your bankroll, and you have an opportunity to make that later swing to hopefully win the contest. I imagine both of those ideas are something you have a lot of sympathy for.
Yeah, definitely. And there's going to be the type of people who would just say, hey, I'm buying into this contest for $1,000. I bet with 600. I'm not willing to bet 600 in the first race, which I was the exact same way when I started gambling. I did not want to go all in. I didn't want to release all of my money and just try to make a big score. I was trying to make a couple scores or make one bigger score based on my handicapping skills that was going to allow a price or a long shot to come in there and let my handicapping force the higher payout. And that's kind of how I would say got into higher bankrolls, that type of stuff. And that's kind of how I play into the BCBC coming up. I've had some success on some higher prices in the Breeders' Cup. I did not bet big doubles with chalks or second price horses. I had Caravel at 42-1 and cashed for 47,000. I had last year the horse that got me into contention to start betting. I think it was a turf race where I had a 40-1 shot that ran third that I played behind two chalks, that I was playing him in second and third. As long as he runs second or third, I'm cashing something. So there's a lot of opportunities, especially in the Breeders' Cup. You're going to get so many horses that are 20, 30, 40-1. They're going to run in the money, and they're going to pay. Exactas are going to pay. Tries are going to pay. You don't have to make crazy $1,000 doubles with favorites to get back 25,000. Yeah. You don't have to do that. So to the people that think that you have to go all in, it's not. That might be game strategy towards the end of the contest, if that's what is the fastest way to get to your goal, let's say. But there's going to be a lot of opportunities with prices on Breeders' Cup Day that a lot of people can make some scores with small amounts of money.
And one thing about the Breeders' Cup, you will find you don't have to be that creative to come up with a good 15 or 20-1 shot at the Breeders' Cup, in the sense of those horses are going to have pretty strong looking PPs. Obviously, there's going to be some question whether it's about how they class up or pace or maybe having speed figures that are slightly light or whatever. But it's not like just trying to find a 20-1 shot on a Thursday, where sometimes it can be good luck finding an appealing one. On Breeders' Cup Day, they're going to be there in half the races, if not more, I would say. Do you think that's an exaggeration, or do you agree with that idea?
No, definitely. I think you're getting added value on what I would consider a true 15, 20-1 shot. You might get, like, I thought Caravel was a 15, 20-1 horse, but you get some favorites that people start betting, and now you're jumping up to 30, 40-1. I think you're getting potentially double the value on some of this stuff. Like you said, on a Thursday, a 15-1, true value might be 40-1, and you're only getting 15-1. So you're going to get a lot of value on these 2 days coming up. And I think it's the most fun 2 gambling days of the entire year.
Caravel's a great example because sometimes you can come up with these sort of if-then scenarios in races too. If there was a chance, a not unreasonable chance, that Golden Pal wasn't going to break again. Golden Pal had trouble breaking in previous races. Now, granted, at least one instance was of the jockey's making, but still, if you said to yourself in that race, you knew Golden Pal wasn't going to break, then what price is Caravel? Probably more like 4, 5, 6 to 1. So all of a sudden, that 40 to 1 looks really, really good. Hopefully, you'll have another big score along those lines. We can come back here and do a victory loop for this year's BCBC Diaries.
Yeah.
Congrats to you. Congrats to Tyler. Both of you have won seats so far. And I'll tell you what, Jackson Muniz sitting pretty in these horse player happy hour quarterfinals this week. He's got 2 of the remaining 40 entries. Maybe we'll get him there yet and go 3 for 3 on this show. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that would be awesome for him to get a good chance here coming up to win a BCBC seat. But I will say, it's for those who follow golf. Brooks Koepka said the majors are the easier ones to win. Say you're getting a percentage of players who just potentially aren't good enough to win a contest. You're going to get half of the players who just don't play good for that weekend and don't hit a bet. And that's out of your control. So you're only playing against a small percentage of the players who have a legitimate chance to win. So, hey, I got 1 major under the books. I'm looking to get my 2nd major under the books, and this one would be very, very cool to win.
It's been so fun documenting it all year long. Thank you so much, Justin, for your time today. Thanks to our friends over at the Breeders' Cup. Make sure you get involved in this horse player happy hour qualifier on Thursday. House cut, as we mentioned, going to charity, and daily opportunities to feed and qualify into the BCBC over at horseplayers.com. Make sure you check out the Twin Spires and Express Bet schedules as well going forward. Huge one this weekend in Keeneland. We'll come back next week with a report on that and checking in with some more of our players. Till then, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale, and I'll see you on the leaderboard.